Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into today's story. Let's pause here and see what happens next. Will Emma and Liam cross paths again? And what will happen when their mistaken identities come to light? Stay tuned for the next part of the story. After Emma rushed out of the restaurant, she couldn't shake the feeling of humiliation that followed her down the street. She had made a complete fool of herself. Her heart pounded in her chest as she pulled her coat tighter around her, wishing she could just disappear. She glanced down at her phone and read the text from Kevin again, her stomach sinking further. "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." The message was simple, but it stung. How could she have been so careless? Emma had promised her best friend Jenny she would give this blind date a try, but now, standing outside the restaurant, she wasn't sure why she even bothered. She felt out of place, her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes a stark contrast to the elegant restaurant she had just fled from. The whole night felt like a disaster. "I should just go home," she muttered to herself, her breath visible in the chilly evening air. But as she turned toward the street, a small voice in the back of her mind told her that maybe, just maybe, there was a silver lining to all this. Back inside the restaurant, Liam sat at the table where Emma had just left him. He stared after her, a strange mixture of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. He had never been the type to just let things go. Usually, when someone made a mistake like that, he'd correct them right away. But with Emma, he hadn't. And now, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He had intended to tell her the truth from the beginning, to let her know she had made a mistake. But something about her, something genuine and real, made him pause. She wasn't like the other women he knew, the ones who saw his wealth before they saw him. Emma had no idea who he really was. She just saw a man sitting at a table, waiting for a date. The night continued, but Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something about Emma had sparked something in him he hadn't felt in years. His mind kept going back to the way she talked about her struggles, working as a waitress, trying to make ends meet, dreaming of someday opening an art studio. She didn't hide her life behind a polished facade like everyone else. And that, for some reason, made him want to know more. As the evening wore on, Liam decided he couldn't just let her go. He had to find her. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it was just a passing infatuation. But he had a feeling that he would regret it if he didn't make the effort. He grabbed his coat, paid the check, and left the restaurant, his mind racing with thoughts of Emma. Meanwhile, Emma had walked several blocks away from the restaurant, but she hadn't really gotten far. Her mind kept drifting back to the conversation she had just had. She had tried so hard to make a good impression, but now, all she could think about was how she had ruined it. She checked her phone again, but there were no new messages. Kevin hadn't even bothered to text her. And to make matters worse, she hadn't even asked for his number. She stopped at the corner, just standing there for a moment, unsure of what to do next. The city lights flickered against the dark sky, and the sound of distant traffic hummed in the background. It felt like the world was moving around her, but she was stuck. That's when she felt it. A tap on her shoulder. She turned around quickly, startled. "Emma." Liam's voice was unmistakable. She froze for a moment, unsure if she had heard him correctly. She looked up to find him standing there, his expression earnest but calm, like he had made up his mind about something. I didn't mean to run out like that," Emma said, feeling awkward once again. She forced a small smile, trying to hide the embarrassment that still lingered. I wasn't expecting all of this." She motioned to herself, her mismatched outfit, her nervousness. Liam chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I get it. I wasn't exactly expecting a mistake like that either." He paused for a beat, then added, "But I couldn't just let you go without talking to you. I think we owe it to ourselves to at least try again. Would you like to grab a coffee with me? No pressure, just a chance to start over." Emma blinked, caught off guard by his sudden shift in tone. She had expected him to be angry or irritated, but instead, he was offering her a chance to make things right. It was the last thing she expected, and yet, it felt strangely reassuring. She took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, her voice a little more confident now. "I could use a coffee." They walked together down the street, a comfortable silence settling between them. The earlier tension seemed to dissipate as they moved farther from the restaurant. Liam was right. There was something about this whole situation that felt different. She wasn't sure what it was yet, but she was starting to wonder if this mistake, this wrong table, might turn out to be a step in the right direction after all. As they entered the nearby cafe, the warmth from the cozy interior greeted them like an old friend. Emma took a seat at a small table near the window, and Liam joined her. They ordered their drinks, and for the first time that evening, Emma felt like she could breathe again. She was nervous, but not because of the date, because of the unexpected connection that seemed to be growing between them. "So, tell me more about this art studio you want to open," Liam asked, leaning forward slightly. His curiosity was genuine, and for the first time, Emma felt like someone was actually listening to her. She smiled, feeling the tension ease from her shoulders. "Well, it's always been a dream of mine. I love painting, and I want to create a space for artists who don't have the money to show their work. I want to help them find their voice, like I'm trying to do for myself." Liam nodded, impressed by her passion. "I think that's incredible. You have big dreams, Emma, and I think you're capable of making them come true." She smiled softly, feeling the weight of his words. Could it be possible that this man, the one she had initially mistaken for Kevin, could be the one to help her make her dreams come true? And for the first time that night, Emma allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was more than just a mistake. Stay tuned for the next part, where the truth behind Liam's identity is revealed, and Emma faces a new challenge that could change everything. Will she trust him when the truth comes to light? Find out next time. The coffee shop was quiet, the kind of peaceful atmosphere that allowed people to really talk. Liam and Emma sat across from each other at a small table by the window, sipping their drinks. Emma had never felt this comfortable with someone she barely knew. The nerves that had plagued her earlier were gone, replaced by an easy rhythm to their conversation. They talked about everything. Her dreams of opening an art studio, his vague description of his work in tech, the struggles they both faced in life, the way things never went as planned. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt heard. As they continued to talk, Emma found herself laughing, something she hadn't done in what felt like forever. She was starting to forget the awkwardness of their first meeting, the misunderstanding about Kevin, and just enjoy the moment. But in the back of her mind, there was still something nagging at her. Liam had been so vague about his work. Tech. It was too general. And yet, every time she asked a question, he deflected it or kept his answers short. Finally, after a long pause, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "So, you work in tech, huh?" she asked, her tone playful. "What exactly do you do? You know, coding apps? Building robots? Or do you just play video games all day?" She smiled, trying to keep the mood light. Liam chuckled, his smile widening. "I guess I don't exactly make robots," he said, his voice warm. "But I'm in tech, yeah? Just, let's say, I'm involved in a little more than just coding. It's complicated." He leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if he was trying to decide whether to say more. He cleared his throat, and then added, "It's not important right now." Emma tilted her head, studying him. There was something in his voice, a hint of something he wasn't sharing. She couldn't help but wonder if he was hiding something. But, at the same time, part of her didn't want to push too hard. Maybe it wasn't her business, not yet. "Fair enough," she said with a shrug, deciding not to press further. They had only just met, after all. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table. Emma looked down and saw a text from Jenny. "How did it go? Are you having fun?" She smiled, quickly typing a response. "It's going well. I'll tell you more later." She set the phone down and returned her focus to Liam, but the slight distraction had her mind wandering. She noticed he was watching her with a thoughtful expression, his lips pressed together in a way that made her wonder what he was thinking. She didn't mind the silence that followed. It wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that spoke volumes. Eventually, he broke it. "I'm glad we did this," he said softly, his voice sincere. "I'm usually not the type of guy to connect like this with someone. Especially not after all the stuff that's been going on lately." He seemed to hesitate, like he wanted to say more, but wasn't sure how. Emma's heart softened. She knew exactly what he meant. She had felt that way too. The world felt heavy, especially when you were stuck in a rut, unsure of how to move forward. "I get it," she replied, her voice quiet but warm. "Sometimes, it's just hard to open up. But I think it's nice that we're both here, talking like this." It's unexpected. She paused, unsure whether she should share more, but something about the way Liam looked at her made her feel safe. He smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. Yeah, he said. It's unexpected, but maybe that's a good thing. He leaned forward slightly, his hands resting on the table. Listen, Emma, there's something I need to tell you. His voice was serious now, and she could feel the shift in the air between them. Her stomach fluttered with anticipation. Emma's heart skipped a beat. What is it? She asked, her curiosity piqued. Liam took a deep breath before continuing. I haven't been completely honest with you. I work in tech, yes, but that's not all I do. I'm actually Liam Parker, the CEO of a tech company called Parker Innovations. He watched her closely, waiting for her reaction. Emma's eyes widened, her mind racing to process what he had just said. The Liam Parker? The millionaire tech mogul? She hadn't put two and two together before, but now it all made sense. The vague answers about his job, the way he carried himself. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just any man she had been talking to. This was someone she had no business even speaking to. The silence stretched between them, and Emma could feel her pulse quicken. She wasn't sure how to respond. She had been sitting here with a billionaire, someone who could change her life in an instant. But that wasn't what bothered her. What bothered her was the way her heart had started to soften toward him, the way she had begun to care about him, even before knowing who he really was. I know this is a lot to take in, Liam said, his voice quieter now, but I just wanted to be honest with you. I didn't want to hide who I am, especially after everything we've talked about. Emma took a moment to collect herself. I didn't expect this, she said finally, her voice shaky. I thought you were just some guy, you know? I had no idea you were. Well, She shook her head, still trying to wrap her mind around it. Liam smiled, though there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. I get it, but I didn't want you to see me as just a CEO or just a millionaire. I wanted you to see me for who I am, not what I have. I hope that's still possible. He leaned back in his chair, giving her space to process. Emma was silent for a long moment, her mind buzzing with thoughts and emotions she wasn't sure how to sort through. But finally, she looked at him, her eyes meeting his with a new understanding. Maybe I need some time to think, she said softly. But I think I'm willing to give this a chance. She smiled, the weight of her decision heavy but hopeful. Stay tuned to see where this unexpected connection leads, and whether Emma can trust her heart, even when things get complicated. Will she accept Liam for who he really is? Find out in the next part of their story. The following days passed by in a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and what he had told her. The revelation that he was the CEO of Parker Innovations had shaken her. She wasn't sure what to make of it. Part of her felt betrayed, like he had lied to her from the start, while another part of her couldn't help but admire his honesty. It wasn't every day you found out the person you were talking to was a millionaire, let alone a tech mogul. She still wasn't sure how to process everything. She had spent the last few days working long shifts at the diner, trying to clear her head. But no matter how much she focused on her work, her mind kept drifting back to Liam. How could someone like him be interested in someone like her? A waitress with dreams, but no real prospects. It didn't make sense. Emma hadn't seen him since that night at the cafe, and as much as she had told herself that she needed time to think, she found herself missing him more than she wanted to admit. She thought about texting him, but each time she stopped herself. What if he was only interested in her because of who he was? What if he was just playing with her? She didn't want to be another one of his fleeting interests. But despite her doubts, something kept her hopeful. Liam had been nothing but kind, genuine even, from the moment they'd met. He hadn't acted like the typical rich guy she'd imagined, arrogant, detached, and entitled. Instead, he'd listened to her, encouraged her, and treated her like an equal. On a Saturday afternoon, a few days after their coffee date, Emma was walking home from work when she saw a familiar face in the distance. It was Liam. He was standing outside a cafe, looking like he was waiting for someone. She froze for a moment, unsure if she should approach him or just keep walking. But before she could decide, he spotted her. Emma, Liam called, his voice cutting through the crowd. He smiled warmly and waved her over, looking genuinely pleased to see her. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she walked toward him, her nerves flaring up. Once again, but this time, it wasn't the nerves of uncertainty or fear. It was excitement, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hey, she said, trying to sound casual as she approached. "I didn't expect to see you here." She stopped in front of him, her hands stuffed in the pockets of her jacket. Liam shrugged, the same easygoing smile on his face. "I was hoping to run into you," he said, his eyes searching hers. "I wanted to talk. I know I've left you hanging for a few days, but I wasn't sure how to." He stopped himself, realizing he might have said too much too quickly. Emma raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. "You've been thinking about me?" she asked, trying to keep the mood light. But there was a soft tremor in her voice that betrayed her. Liam smiled, a little sheepish. "I have. Honestly, I've been kicking myself for not telling you sooner. About who I really am, I mean. I didn't want to scare you off." He paused, his hands stuffed in his coat pockets. "But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know who I really am, even if it complicates things." He looked down for a moment before meeting her gaze again. Emma stood there, unsure of what to say. Her heart was racing, and her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. She had wanted time to process everything, but now, here he was, standing right in front of her, admitting his feelings. "I don't know what to say," Emma finally admitted, her voice quiet. "I guess I just need to know what you want from me. You're a CEO, Liam. You could have anyone you wanted. Why me?" She wasn't sure why she asked it, but the question had been on her mind since the moment they'd met. Liam took a step closer, his expression serious. "Because you're real, Emma. You've never treated me like I'm some untouchable billionaire. You've been honest with me, even when I haven't deserved it. And that means more to me than anything else. I don't care about my wealth, my status, none of that. I care about you." He reached out and gently took her hand, his thumb brushing against her skin in a soft, reassuring gesture. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected that answer. And yet, there was something about the sincerity in his voice that made her believe him. She stared at their joined hands for a moment before looking up at him. "But what about your world?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What about all the people who expect you to be different? You can't just walk away from that." She had seen glimpses of his world, his lifestyle, his responsibilities. It was a world she wasn't sure she belonged in. Liam smiled softly, his thumb continuing to move in gentle circles on the back of her hand. "I'm not walking away from it," he said, his voice steady. "But I don't want to be just another person playing by the rules. I want something real, something that matters. And right now, that's you." He paused for a moment before adding, "I know this is fast, but I don't want to waste any more time pretending. I want you to know that I'm here, and I want to give this a chance, no matter what." His gaze softened as he looked into her eyes. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she hadn't expected. She had been so focused on her doubts and insecurities that she hadn't allowed herself to feel this connection, this pull toward him. And now, with him standing here, so sincere and open, it was hard to ignore. "I don't know if I'm ready for everything," she said quietly. "But I think I'm ready to see where this goes." Liam's smile widened, his eyes shining with relief and hope. "That's all I'm asking for, Emma. A chance to show you that this, us, is real." And in that moment, standing on the bustling city street, with the world around them moving on as usual, Emma realized that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the leap. Stay tuned for the next chapter in their journey, as Emma and Liam navigate the complexities of their relationship, and Emma faces the challenges that come with opening her heart. What will happen next? Find out in the next part of their story. The days following Emma's decision to give Liam a chance felt like a whirlwind. They saw each other more often now, though their relationship still felt tentative, like two people feeling their way through a maze of unspoken emotions. They continued to meet for coffee, dinners, and long walks through the city, talking about everything and nothing at all. But despite their growing connection, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. She was learning more about Liam, but there was still so much she didn't know about his world. One afternoon, as they sat in a quiet cafe, Liam looked at her with an intensity she hadn't seen before. "I want to show you something," he said suddenly, his voice soft but serious. Emma looked up from her coffee, surprised. He had never asked her to meet him somewhere specific before. "What is it?" she asked, a little apprehensive. He smiled, a playful glint in his eyes. "It's a surprise. Trust me?" he asked, his hand reaching across the table to take hers. She hesitated for a moment, but the warmth of his touch eased her doubts. "Okay," she replied, her voice steady. They stood up and walked outside, Liam leading the way. Emma had no idea where they were going, but she didn't mind. There was something comforting about following him, knowing he was leading her somewhere. As they walked through the bustling streets, the noises of the city seemed to fade into the background, replaced by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional word exchanged between them. After a short walk, they arrived at a sleek, modern building with large glass windows. Liam led her inside, past the receptionist, and into an elevator. The elevator ride was brief, but Emma's curiosity only grew. When the doors opened, they stepped into a large, open space. The walls were lined with modern art, and the air was filled with the soft hum of activity. Emma's eyes widened as she realized where they were. "Is this an art gallery?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. Liam smiled, his eyes watching her closely. "It is," he said, "but it's also more than that." He led her further into the space, and Emma's gaze shifted from one beautiful piece of art to another. She had always loved art, but had never had the opportunity to see such an impressive collection in person. They stopped in front of a large painting, one that seemed to capture the essence of freedom and struggle, the colors bold and vibrant. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a sense of awe wash over her. "This is amazing," she whispered, her voice full of wonder. Liam's gaze softened as he looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted to show you this because I want you to know who I am. This gallery, this space, it's not just about my business. It's about something more. It's about giving people a platform to express themselves, to show the world their voice." Emma turned to look at him, her heart beating faster. "You're involved in this?" she asked, surprised. Liam nodded. "Yes, I'm a part of it. But it's more than just a business for me. It's personal." He paused, his gaze shifting to the artwork on the walls. "I want you to understand that, Emma. There's more to me than just the tech stuff, the business deals, the money." His voice was steady, sincere. Emma was silent for a moment, taking in his words. She had never imagined that Liam, the tech CEO, would have such a deep connection to art. It made her realize that maybe, just maybe, there was more to him than the polished exterior she had initially seen. She looked at him, her heart filled with something she couldn't quite name. "I never expected this," she said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "I didn't know you had such a passion for this." Liam smiled, his eyes soft. "There's a lot you don't know about me yet. But I want you to. I want to share this side of me with you." He reached out and gently took her hand, the gesture warm and reassuring. They spent the next hour walking through the gallery, Liam explaining the stories behind each piece, sharing the meaning behind the works of art on display. Emma was captivated, not just by the art, but by the way Liam spoke about it. She could see the passion in his eyes, the depth of feeling he had for something beyond the tech world that had defined him for so long. By the time they left the gallery, Emma felt like she had just begun to understand him on a deeper level. He wasn't just a CEO. He wasn't just a man of business. He was someone who cared about the world, about creating something meaningful. As they walked back to the street, Liam looked at her with a soft smile. "I'm glad we could do this," he said. "I wanted to show you this side of me, because it's who I am. And I think it's time you knew the real me." Emma smiled back, feeling a weight lift from her chest. She was starting to see Liam in a new light, one that made her feel even more connected to him. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet but full of gratitude. "I needed to see this." Liam squeezed her hand gently. "I'm glad you're here, Emma." The world around them seemed to fade as they walked side by side, their connection deepening with each step. Stay tuned to find out how Emma and Liam continue to navigate their relationship and what lies ahead as they open up to each other in ways they never expected. Will their growing connection survive the challenges that lie ahead? Find out in the next part of their story. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, though the relationship still felt new and fragile. Emma had always prided herself on being independent, never relying on anyone else to solve her problems. But with Liam, it was different. He didn't try to fix everything for her. Instead, he listened, he understood, and he supported her in ways that made her feel like she could trust him. They spent more time together, from quiet dinners to spontaneous walks around the city, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. But despite the comfort she felt with him, Emma couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in the back of her mind. She had spent so many years working hard just to get by, trying to make something of herself. And now, She was falling for a man who had everything: wealth, success, and a world of opportunities she could only dream of. What did he really want with her? Was it just a fleeting connection, or did he see something in her that was worth holding on to? And what about her? Could she truly allow herself to be with him, someone whose life was so different from hers? One evening, after spending the day together, they sat in Liam's apartment, the city lights twinkling through the large windows behind them. Emma had just finished telling him about her plans for the future, how she still dreamed of opening an art studio, of creating a space where artists like herself could express their creativity without worrying about the cost. Liam listened intently, his eyes focused on her as she spoke. But there was something in his expression that made her pause. "I believe in you, Emma," Liam said softly, his voice sincere. "You're so much more than you think. You've got so much potential, and I want to help you make your dreams a reality." Emma hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She had always been independent, never accepting help from anyone. And yet, hearing Liam's words made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she could allow herself to trust him. She looked at him, her heart beating faster. "I don't know if I can accept help like that," she said quietly, her voice uncertain. "I've worked so hard for everything I've got. I don't want to feel like I'm taking something from you. I don't want to feel like I'm using you." Liam reached over and gently took her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "Emma," he said, his voice calm and steady, "you're not using me. I want to help you because I believe in you. You don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to be afraid of letting someone in. Let me be that person for you." Emma looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity in his gaze. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could let go of her fears and allow herself to be supported. It was a difficult thing for her to do, but in that moment, she realized that maybe it was time. Maybe she didn't have to carry the weight of everything on her own. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm scared. Scared of what this could mean. Scared of how different we are." Liam smiled softly, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "I know. But sometimes, the best things in life come when we step outside of our comfort zones. I want to be with you, Emma. I want to see where this goes. No matter how different our lives are, I believe we can make it work." Emma felt her heart swell with emotion. She had never let herself rely on anyone before, and yet here she was, allowing herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could take a chance on Liam. She squeezed his hand gently, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "Okay," she said quietly, her voice filled with both fear and hope. "Okay, let's try this. Let's see where it goes." In that moment, as Liam held her hand, Emma realized that the future was unpredictable, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. She was ready to take that step with him, to see where their journey would lead. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, a new challenge arose that neither of them could have expected. Liam's business was facing a major crisis, and he had to leave town unexpectedly to handle it. The sudden change in plans left Emma feeling uncertain once again. Would the distance between them tear them apart, or would it bring them closer together? Stay tuned for the next chapter in Emma and Liam's journey, where they will face obstacles that could test their growing connection. Will their relationship survive the pressures of their separate worlds? Or will the challenges they face drive them further apart? Find out in the next part of their story. The days after Liam's sudden departure were a mix of emotions for Emma. She had agreed to try, to let herself open up and take a chance, but now that he was gone, a sense of emptiness filled the space where their connection had been. It wasn't just about the time they spent together. It was the way he made her feel, like she wasn't just a waitress with big dreams, but someone capable of achieving them. She missed him more than she expected. She tried to distract herself with work, but every time she passed by the cafe where they'd had coffee or saw a new piece of art on the street, memories of their time together flooded back. She understood that Liam's work was demanding and that he couldn't always be there when she needed him. Still, the uncertainty gnawed at her. What if their relationship wasn't strong enough to survive the distance? What if, when he came back, things had changed? What if he no longer saw her as the woman he wanted to be with, but just another fleeting connection? These questions circled in her mind every day. It wasn't long before she heard from him. His message was simple but heartfelt. "I miss you. Things are tough here, but I'll be home soon. Can't wait to see you." A wave of relief washed over Emma as she read the words. She missed him too, more than she cared to admit. It wasn't just his presence she longed for. It was the way he made her feel about herself. He saw her, not the waitress, not the girl struggling to make her dreams come true, but the woman with endless potential. But as much as the message comforted her, it also reminded her of how uncertain things still felt. She had to be honest with herself. She was afraid. Afraid that when Liam returned, he would expect more than she was ready to give. She had lived her life being independent, handling everything on her own, and suddenly, she was learning how to lean on someone else. How could she fully let him in when she still wasn't sure about herself? When Liam finally returned, Emma couldn't deny the flutter in her chest as she saw him waiting for her at the same cafe where they'd first met. He was leaning against the window, his eyes scanning the street until they landed on her. A smile spread across his face, and in that moment, she knew he hadn't changed his mind about her. The fear, the uncertainty, still lingered in the back of her mind, but seeing him standing there, looking at her with that same warmth, erased some of the doubt. "Hey," she said, her voice softer than usual as she approached him. "You look different. Not in a bad way. Just, you look like you've been through a lot." Her eyes searched his, and he chuckled, stepping forward to pull her into a tight hug. "You have no idea," Liam said, his voice warm against her ear. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." He pulled back slightly, his hands still resting on her arms. "I've been thinking about us a lot. About how much I care about you, and how I don't want to rush anything. But I do want to be with you, Emma. For real. Not just when it's convenient." Emma's heart pounded in her chest as his words hit her. She had always feared that he might say the opposite, that he was too busy, too distracted by his world to care about her. But here, he was, standing before her, telling her the opposite. The doubt that had built up in her over the last few weeks began to fade, replaced by something she hadn't expected: hope. "I've been scared too," Emma admitted, her voice small but steady. "I didn't want to let you in, Liam. I've been on my own for so long, and it felt safer that way. But I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to let you in." The relief on Liam's face was palpable, and for a moment, Emma felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off her shoulders. It wasn't going to be easy. There would still be doubts, still be challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone in this journey. "I'm so glad to hear that," Liam said, his voice filled with emotion. "We'll take it one step at a time. But I want you to know, I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." And with that, the weight of Emma's fear seemed to lift. She had stepped into the unknown, and although she couldn't predict what the future held, for the first time, she felt ready to face it. Together. Stay tuned to find out how Emma and Liam continue to navigate the complexities of their relationship. Will they be able to overcome the obstacles in their path? Or will the challenges of their different worlds keep them apart? Find out in the next chapter of their story. As the days passed, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, their connection becoming deeper with each passing moment. They spent time together, getting to know one another in ways that felt more meaningful than before. Emma had always been independent, but now, for the first time, she felt like she could rely on someone without fear. She had opened up to Liam, allowed herself to trust him, and in return, he had been nothing but patient, understanding, and supportive. However, even as their relationship flourished, Emma couldn't ignore the nagging doubts that still lingered in the back of her mind. She had always been cautious, afraid of getting hurt, and now that she was letting someone in, it felt like a leap of faith. What if things didn't work out? What if, despite their connection, they were still too different to make it work? The doubts were there, but for the first time in a long while, Emma was willing to push them aside and embrace what she had with Liam. One evening, as they walked through a park together, Liam stopped suddenly, turning to face Emma with a serious expression on his face. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said, his voice low. "I know we've been moving pretty fast, but I need you to understand something." Emma's heart skipped a beat, a mixture of anticipation and nervousness flooding her chest. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft as she met his gaze. Liam took a deep breath, clearly struggling with how to put his thoughts into words. "I don't want you to think that I'm rushing you or putting pressure on you. But I've never felt this way about anyone before. You're different, Emma. And I care about you. A lot." His words hung in the air between them, and Emma felt her heart swell at the sincerity in his voice. For a moment, she stood frozen, unsure of what to say. Her mind raced. but her heart was already telling her what she needed to hear. "I care about you too, Liam," she whispered, the words slipping from her lips before she could stop them. Liam smiled, the tension in his shoulders easing as he took her hand in his. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, his voice warm. "I know it hasn't been easy for either of us. There's a lot we've had to work through, but I think we're getting there. And I want to keep moving forward, with you, no matter what comes next." Emma looked up at him, her heart full of conflicting emotions. Part of her still feared the uncertainty, the idea that they were both from completely different worlds. But another part of her knew that they had something real, something worth fighting for. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage, and spoke again. "I'm ready," she said softly, looking into his eyes. "I'm ready to take the next step. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I want to be with you. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." The relief on Liam's face was almost palpable, and for a moment, they stood there, holding hands, both silently acknowledging the significance of what they had just said. It wasn't just about the words. It was about the trust, the vulnerability, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. As they walked away from the park, hand in hand, Emma couldn't help but smile. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, and there would always be uncertainties. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that with Liam by her side, she wouldn't have to face it alone. Stay tuned for the next chapter in Emma and Liam's journey. What challenges will they face together? Will their bond continue to strengthen, or will the pressures of their separate worlds tear them apart? Find out in the next part of their story. As time passed, Emma and Liam settled into a routine, their relationship growing stronger each day. They faced challenges, of course, but together, they tackled everything life threw their way. Emma continued to pursue her dream of opening her art studio, with Liam's encouragement and support. He was there every step of the way, never once pressuring her, but always offering a helping hand when she needed it. In return, Emma helped Liam stay grounded, reminding him of what really mattered outside of his business empire. One day, after weeks of planning, Emma found herself standing in front of a small, charming building that she had finally secured for her art studio. It was a dream come true. She couldn't help but smile as she took in the sight of the place, the walls that would soon be filled with the work of aspiring artists. The space was small, but it was hers. It was everything she had worked for, and everything she had dreamed of. She had told Liam about the studio's opening day, but he insisted on keeping it a surprise. He had planned something special for her. And when the day finally arrived, Liam was there, standing by her side, his presence the most comforting thing she could imagine. They opened the doors together, and the moment they stepped inside, Emma was overwhelmed with emotion. "This is incredible," Liam said, his eyes scanning the room. He looked at Emma, a proud smile on his face. "I'm so proud of you." Emma smiled back, tears welling in her eyes. She hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected him to be so involved in this dream of hers. But there he was, supporting her, standing by her in a way that made her feel like she was truly capable of anything. As they continued to set up for the opening, Emma noticed something unexpected. A small crowd of people had gathered outside. She hadn't expected such a turnout, and yet, there they were, eager to see what she had created. She felt a sense of pride swell inside her as she realized that people believed in her, that she was doing something meaningful. That evening, as the gallery opened and the first visitors walked through the door, Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The room was filled with laughter, conversations, and the hum of creativity. It wasn't just about the art on the walls. It was about the connections being made, the support being shared, and the future that was beginning to unfold. And in the midst of it all, Liam was there, by her side, just as he had promised. As they stood together, watching the guests enjoy the art and the space she had created, Emma turned to him, her heart full. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "None of this would have been possible without you." Liam smiled, his gaze soft. "You did this, Emma. You're the one who worked for it, who believed in it. I'm just happy to be a part of it." They stood there, hands clasped together, watching the future unfold. Emma realized that this was just the beginning. There were still challenges ahead, still moments of doubt to face. But with Liam by her side, she knew they could overcome anything. Their love had survived the doubts, the fears, and the obstacles that life had thrown their way. And now, As they looked toward the future, she was ready to face whatever came next. In that moment, Emma understood that love wasn't about finding someone to complete you. It was about finding someone who would stand beside you as you completed yourself. And with Liam, she had found that. Together, they had built something beautiful, a future full of possibilities. Stay tuned for the next chapter in their journey. What new challenges will they face together? How will their bond continue to grow and evolve? Find out in the next part of Emma and Liam's story.